You know, the work that you're tasked to do is certainly important and needs to be done, but I have a number of questions that do concern me in your reauthorization. And I guess I'll start off. Would you say that the New York Post is a source of disinformation?
The Global Engagement Center does not do any work domestically, and we don't have any position on any U.S. media outlets at all.
Same with Real Clear Politics?
We simply don't do any work in the United States media.
Same with Daily Wire?
We don't do any work in the U.S. media environment.
Okay, but you did give London-based Global Disinformation Index hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Let me be clear about the context here. We had an arrangement with the Global Disinformation Index to do work in 6 languages other than English for a limited period of time to look for Russian and PRC propaganda narratives. It was very specific work. It only went for a few months. It ended at the end of 2021, and that was the beginning and the end of all of our work.
You don't have to get too animated about it. I can tell you there's some concern there, and I just want to dot the I. Would you say that in retrospect it was a mistake to work with them, that they were not, in fact, an index that you would want to use on a go-forward basis?
The work that we did with them was entirely in keeping with the GEC's mission to work against foreign propaganda and disinformation in overseas environments. So 6 languages other than English, completely outside the United States, no relation to anything else.
But when you have a disinformation source, one that named those entities as sources of Russian propaganda, then the question is, when you're asking them to give you this, to help you, who's vetting them when you choose to give them money and, in fact, they're a source of disinformation?
Let me be clear about the timeline. The work that we did with the GDI ended at late 2020. I believe the work that you're referring to, with which we had no involvement, was later. It was after, in 2022.
A little more topical then. A few days ago, it was falsely reported that Israeli assets had bombed and killed 500 people at a Gaza hospital. Why is it when you're combating disinformation, your organization is silent as to that false information?
So first of all, the Global Engagement Center is generally not a frontline communicator. We're not the public affairs folks. We have a different mission. We look to make strategic interventions.
Well, what was strategic?
Sure. Yeah.
This has echoed around the world. It has both falsely continued to be repeated, even in the halls of Congress by some members. It is currently affecting, because the U.S. is the supplier of choice and of almost exclusivity to the Israeli government. It has affected how the United States is viewed throughout the world, and this disinformation is still wide. If there was a strategic requirement, wouldn't this fall as one? In other words, are you only able to work with long-term contracts, or if we reauthorize you, are you prepared to deal in real time with information that once spread cannot, the genie can't be put back in the bottle once people have this view?
I can't rule out that the Global Engagement Center could take a more active posture. You're right, it would be very resource intensive. In general, we are not engaged in back and forth in the online environment in real time. That's never been the operational posture of the Global Engagement Center. When I say strategic, I'm talking about things like our Russia report or the exposure of the Belt and Road Initiative.
And I appreciate that, and I certainly would appreciate if every time we can show that Belt and Road was gotten by bribes and ultimately delivered an inferior product, that's helpful. But in 2020 and 2021, you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars producing a video game related to disinformation. Would it surprise you that they didn't, that video game that you paid for did not go after Xi or Putin or Iran, but in fact after citizens of the U.S., maybe not intended, but went after citizens of the U.S. that spoke of waste, fraud, and abuse within our own country?
So the video game that we supported is a neutral teaching tool. It's not directed at any environment. It simply shows people how campaigns can be constructed. It's intended to raise awareness. It doesn't have any political significance. That's not the way it
But I thought we weren't paying for neutral. We were paying for results that drove down disinformation. Did it do that?
So we did have a peer-reviewed study of the video game, one of the games, and Harmony Square, and it recorded a 23% increase in people's ability to spot disinformation after using the game. So that part was not neutral, and that is why we funded it.
Thank you. Yield back.